Hello, Ramanaji.
Yes, okay.
Good evening, Ramanaji. I think we should get a start. Check our Vice President, Mr. Majhar, is there.
Yes, he is there. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's get a start then.
Okay.
Both speaker are there.
Yes, they are there.
Hello, Ramanaji,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have done.
Yes.
Evening, Ramanaji. I think we should get a start. Check our Vice President, Mr. Majhar, is. Okay, you have done a functional check of everything, right? So let's get a start. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
My audibility is okay.
Yeah, loud and
Okay.
clear.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum and good evening to audience of today webinar on confined space entry application by MSA company. This is Safdar Ali Khan, SSP Kuwait chapter secretary. Welcome you for this wonderful webinar of this evening. And I am overwhelmed by the response of the participant today. I can see there are plus 75 people are there. So it seems it is mattering most of the people who are there as a participant today. And there will be a good takeaway message. So let us get a start with the Ramana. Please show me the agenda. So usually we start our meeting with our HSE moment, and then we will be having our president or his representative address, and then I will introduce our speaker today. And we will be having two simultaneous presentation, one after another. One topic is confined space entry application, and another is fall protection, which will be giving a 360-degree approach to fall protection. And usually after this, there will be quiz session will be happening, and then we will be having felicitation of our speaker and our participants. So let us start with the HSE moment.
No, just carry on with the other agenda.
Okay, not a problem. We'll come back to again. Let me invite our Vice President Majhuddin Sheikh, and then you can show me. Now I will invite our Vice President, Mr. Majhuddin Sheikh, for his address to the audience today, and our speaker from MSA, Mr. Majhuddin Sheikh.
Thank you so much, Safdar bhai. Am I audible?
Yes, Majhar.
Thank you. So nice. Good evening, everyone, and warm welcome to our technical meet today. And we are very happy to see all of you once again. And I am also happy to tell you that this is 40th event of this year we are doing in the 5 months of our tenure, alhamdulillah. So this is a very nice thing, and with all of your support, we are doing this 40th event, and we have some special and experienced speaker today with us. Before we start, I would just like to throw some light what we have done in the last 5 months. You all are aware about our new committees, social media committee and our COVID-19 crisis committee. Both of these committees we launched this year, and both of them are working very well. I request all of you to follow the social media of ASSP Kuwait chapter everywhere. Now we are visible, whatever you say, whether it is Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever, at all platforms we are now visible thanks to our social media committee. And our COVID-19 crisis committee, they are putting very useful information weekly and monthly basis, which is very helpful in many organizations. I personally use those information at my organization. Another thing is very much, we are very much thankful to Vice Committee, Women in Safety. They are doing wonderful job. Every month they are doing minimum one event. So this is also a wonderful job by the Vice Committee, what they are doing. Regarding training, we are doing many trainings, and now this year, if you have seen, we are doing training at very low cost. Yani, can you believe we are doing Nibosh IGC at only 135 to 150 KD rate? So this is almost impossible thing you can find out anywhere in Kuwait, anywhere in GCC. You will not find at this rate. We have done this rate specially for our members. Also, ISO 45001 lead auditor, we have almost done 2 batches, and we are also conducting for the 3rd batch. This training is for 70 to 85 KDs, which is again the lowest price. And lowest price does not mean that we are doing any compromise with our quality of training. We are using the best trainers. We are using the best institute to provide us this training, which are IRC approved, which is TUV, all of you know. So this is what we are doing. We have started from this year, very low cost training where all of our members can get benefit of. Not only this, we are introducing Nibosh PSM course, which will be done in January. Almost our 1 batch is almost full, and the 2nd batch also we have got 4 to 5 more participants. We are also planning for PHA HAZOP leader training, which is the requirement if you want to chair HAZOP study or any other PHA study under KPC, any organization under KPC. This is the requirement. Generally, this training cost outside online is a $550. Okay, but we are conducting this training only for the 100 KD, which is almost $330, $340 for our members only, right? So this is also under plan. And also you all are aware about BHS training, right? This is requirement for all KPC companies. If you want to work under industrial hygienist, you need to do this course, and you will be soon get a mail regarding these trainings of BHS, which are unbelievable prices for our members. So this is what, and we have also started online payment system for our members, so you don't have to rush in this COVID situation to our office for renewal of your membership or paying this nominal charges of our training. You don't have to rush to that. So online payment system already started by our Platinum chapter this year. And we have also participated. I would like to say to all you people this. We have already participated in international conference. We have presented just in last month. I have also presented in one of the international conference representing ASSP Kuwait chapter. And all of you, those who can present and who has some work which you can present in the international conference, please come forward. If you don't want to go to the international stage, you want to start from the regional or the local stage, we have our PSM monthly PSM meet, technical meet. Please come forward. Okay, there is nothing like all are our members, our brothers. We are doing that. There is always one new member and one experienced member is presenting that. So you can come forward. You can contact me personally. We can talk on the subject of your comfort, and you can present this on the local level. You can start from this. So this will improve your presentation skill. Nowadays, things are going online. This is also online. And also our Toastmaster is working very well. You can join this Toastmaster, improve your presentation skills and all other skills, not only the presentation. So please come forward to present in the PSM 60. This is all. I just would like to throw key parts, what we have done in the last 5 months, which is not still completed. So thank you so much for all of your support once again. And I will give this screen back to Mr. Safdar Ali Khan for further introduction of our speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Mr. Majaruddin Sheikh, for wonderful introduction in a very brief what we are offering, how best we can accommodate it. So those who are new to our chapter activity, I will go real quick within 3-4 minutes, and I will give you an impulse of what activity we are usually doing and how you can be getting benefit from attending this. These are some of the glimpses of recent activity we have done, like webinars, on importance of LinkedIn account for HSE professional on 7th of October, where 95 members attended by Mr. Abdul Musawwir. This our Vice President, Mr. Majruddin Sheikh was talking about. Usually we are meeting 3rd of Wednesday of every month, where 2 speakers will be sharing their expertise. And this is a good platform for a new learner to hone their skill, how to present in a session of audience where the professionals, especially from process safety management learning is there. This was another webinar on cyber safety and security in connected world, held on 24th of October. Mr. Sangameshwaram Iyer from US, where 68 members attended this. And these are different committee, WISE committee events are there, like webinar on awareness on breast cancer by Dr. Anwar Al-Nazar on 31st of October, where 62 members benefited by attending this. This was another webinar on career growth opportunity in HSE profession by Mr. Muhammad K.S. Muhyiddin, where 199 members attended this event on 5th of November. And this is commemoration of World Diabetes Day by Dr. Amir Ahmad and Dr. Muhammad Yusufdar, where 55 members attended on 14th of November. This is another glimpse of process safety management technical meet number 5, where Muhammad Monis and Anirban Misra lead that session, where 82 members benefited by attending this session and sharing that lesson. This is another webinar on global HSE certification and recertification, your career, your future, by our speaker, Mr. Bala Siva Srikant Adivi, on 25th of November, where 124 members benefited by attending this session. Another event by WISE committee, webinar on working online, how about ergonomics, by Ms. Anwar Ali on 20th of November, where 74 members attended and got benefited by. This is another event recently held on process safety management technical meet number 6 on 16th of December, where Mr. Basudevan and Ramachandra Murthy share their expertise to 79 members benefited by attending this. These are recent ongoing program like ISO 45001 lead auditor training program. We have 2 batches. One has just started from 13 to 27th November, including 3 Friday and 2 Saturday. Second batch from 5th to 9th of December. Usually we are planning from Friday and Saturday. So total 40 members benefited by attending this valued ISO 45001 lead auditor course. This is the ongoing program of NIBOS International General Certificate. 12 days in November and December, total participants 16 members. Like our Vice President said, we will be having similar offering in the future. So stay tuned with our WhatsApp broadcast number, or stay in touch with our website address for more getting detail on it. This is our another leadership development club recent Toastmaster meeting. We are meeting 1st and 3rd of every Saturday from 6:30 to 8:30. those who are looking for some opportunity to improve their leadership skill, then they can be part of this Toastmaster meeting. Join us as a guest to get a flavor how Toastmaster meetings are held. Now, this is a glorious moment for me to introduce the speaker, Mr. Radha Krishnan. He is serving as a regional marketing manager for respiratory protection products and fire helmet at MSA Safety Middle East, Dubai. He has over 20 years of international business experience in safety industry and has worked with companies around the world in the product development, product management, sales, marketing, service, training, operation. His expertise reach across all aspects of that spectrum, including utility, oil and gas, and petrochemical. Mr. Radha holds an EMBA in International Management and a Bachelor of Engineering in Instrumentation and specialization in safety training. So we will be hearing more on his topic, confined space entry application. One stop shop for all required. So please welcome Mr. Radha Krishnan for his presentation on confined space entry application.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we are able to hear you, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you, ASP. Really, it's amazing to be here. It's pretty exciting to be at this forum here. Hello, everyone. Good evening. We are pleased you can be with us today for this important webinar. Yeah, I turn off my video. Probably I'll turn it on later to avoid the distractions here. Yeah. So, like I said, we are so pleased you can be with us today for this important webinar. Let's get started. We have about 50 minutes arranged for this session, and the focus, as you see in the screen in front of you, will be on confined spaces and work at height, how to assess your risk. Well, our agenda for today is divided into several sections. In brief, we will introduce our team from MSA Safety and Mahata, our channel partner in Kuwait. Then I'm going to give you a very quick introduction on MSA Safety, then walk you through the session 1, which will cover few facts and figures related to confined spaces, risk prevention measures and procedures, hazard categories, MSA solution for confined space work. Then in the session 2, we'll speak about the hidden hazard that a lot of workers who regularly work at height may not be aware of yet, and followed by a question and answer session. At the end, we will summarize few key questions on specific products when looking at confined space entry applications and make you all of what you learned here today a reality. Let's begin. I'm Radha Krishnan from marketing team based in Dubai and associated with MSA since early 2015. Joining me here today as presenter for session 2 is Adil Afzal, marketing manager for fall protection and head protection products. Joined at MSA in 2019, based in Dubai and supporting MEA region. Also from our channel partner Mahata, both Shabir and Matan are here and your focal point for all your needs related to MSA safety products in Kuwait. We are excited to talk to you today, and it's our great pleasure to welcome you all to this webinar. First, let's start with our history. MSA Safety, over 106 years old company, was formed in 1914 by 2 mining engineers, headquartered in Pittsburgh, USA, currently operating across 6 continents, and almost 4,500 plus direct associates are employed. Our mission, it's very important that men and women may work in safety and that they, their families, and their communities may live in health throughout the world. Our product line includes gas monitoring and detection instruments, filter type respirators, gas masks, breathing apparatus sets, thermal imaging cameras, firefighter helmets, firefighter suits, ballistic body armor, military communication systems, a broad range of industrial head and fall protection products and systems. Our key markets include construction, infrastructure, military, fire service, chemical production, oil and gas, and general industry. MSA Safety products are protecting lives in more than 140 countries. There are several challenges in industrial applications, and one most important thing we always talk about is confined space entry. Let's look at the importance of confined space entry, safety, facts and figures, hazards, why accidents happen, and the products that we offer, etc. Considering growing number of accidents and complex confined space work scenario, there is a need for frequent review and adoption of procedures and equipment to changing work environment. You must consider what may happen if there is no attempt to improve current procedures, work on review, and assure better safety for workers. The impact of action for confined spaces can be clearly seen from the statistics here. This is just general example about number of workers who enter confined spaces every day across various industries. And unfortunately, frequency of accidents which happen. They happen in many industries and most severe are recorded in, of course, OGP, utilities, food and beverages, manufacturing, and agriculture. Why accidents happen? Unfortunately, accidents do happen. People become injured, but also there are real examples of lethal accidents related to atmospheric hazards. People think that they have procedures, trained supervisors who know what to do, trained employees, they are completely known to respond to emergency scenario, but look on the statistics. Are you sure everything works well on your side? What you see here on the screen is the evaluation done by NIOSH for recorded accidents, trying to find the root cause. Now that you have the awareness what happens, it will be good to start with better identification when confined space work really happens. We know number of definitions, but it is not always easy to be sure we correctly identify these areas. Let's look at what is a confined space. We often seem to think about confined spaces or enclosed place with limited access and certain risk presence. The point is, however, that there is still room for interpretation when it comes to either meeting or not meeting confined space definition criteria points. Generally, we always recommend checking your local regulations to make sure that all your confined spaces are correctly identified. Well, let's see what is not a confined space now. When defining the area as confined space, one should take into account not only the size, access, but also the risks, which is very important. You can see here that various local regulations have certain disclaimers, what will be the confined space or not. When we take a close look at the US definition, many examples are given. The key is not whether the space type is listed by OSHA, but rather whether it meets the definition. There are a number of examples we always identify and see often at the industries. One, as you can see here, the first picture on the left side, first row, is a pressure vessel. A pressure vessel is a container designed to hold gases or liquids at a pressure substantially different from ambient pressure. Pressure vessels are used in a variety of applications in both industry and the private sector. And the other images also display or indicate different types of confined spaces that we often see across various industries. When you manage to identify your confined spaces, it is important to follow with identification of all risks related to these places. Each risk may force to plan for certain actions that will help to mitigate the risk. There are a lot of confined space hazards, but atmospheric hazard is the most common, and it is important to cover them in detail. Yes, you would have seen all the deaths in confined spaces is due to atmospheric conditions. They include oxygen deficient atmosphere, oxygen enriched atmosphere, flammable atmosphere, because the flammable atmosphere can cause the explosions, which may be fatal not only for a person which is close to leak source, but others as well. Toxic atmosphere. There are many toxic gases which can poison our body, create suffocate effect, and even burn our organs. Two of the most important are carbon monoxide and hydrogen sulfide. We often hear at the industry level. Let's review the measures for risk prevention. That is another important factor here. People think that they have procedures, but nearly 31% of those who had accidents still failed because they really did not use these procedures. Maybe they were defined, but were not clear enough or not communicated. It is important to go through the 4 basic steps that's in the process. First one, feasibility study. That is, identify the places and plan how the work must be organized. Number 2, preparation and training, very important. Prepare necessary instructions and equipment and train the people. They have to practice. Number 3, execution and review. Observe how the procedures are fulfilled and review if something has to be changed. Number 4, analysis of intervention and experience feedback, very important. Carefully analyze each issue you identified and seek for the feedback of those who are experienced. Some of the most important elements that we must consider during our planning are covered in the next few slides. One of the most important elements of risk prevention is training. You may refer to the studies showing that nearly 15% of those involved in confined space accidents had actually attended confined space training. What happens then? It is a lack of knowledge that actually kills. Many people say, I need to know, it's only a matter of time I can do this job. Simple point is that a lack of knowledge. Some examples, sometimes people don't even calibrate gas detectors, which is a requirement from the manufacturers. Similarly, periodical inspection for fall protection equipment, which has to happen at least once in a year. Also, clearance measurements prior to the entry into the confined space to identify atmospheric hazards. We will see more in the session 2. The other risk prevention measure is work permit, allowing to control entry, required equipment, and exclude all unauthorized people from working in confined space. Some of them will require formal permit to work, but some of them may not. A permit to work system is appropriate. Remember, MSA, we always encourage you to check your local regulations. Well, one of the measures for risk prevention is also building the rescue plan. Again, you may refer to the NIOSH study that those who died had no rescue plan at all, which is not acceptable. You plan for work in confined spaces to avoid accidents and the other associated issues, but you have to be prepared. Due to the fact that confined spaces are dangerous, there are the regulations which set the direction for you how the work can be performed safely there. Do you know your regulations? And if yes, do you think that is enough to be just compliant and tick the boxes? Many countries find confined spaces work as important topic and spend time in developing their own regulations and also complying to several other directives, let it be in the European side or on the North American side. In US also, OSHA has issued three separate standards for general industry, the construction industry, and the maritime industry for conduct in confined spaces. We discussed the hazards, important parts of planning for confined space work, some of the statics and regulations. It's ultimately making a safer tomorrow than today. Let's have that in mind and go through a quick overview of how you should handle the most common confined space hazards and what can be the solutions for them. Let's start from those who cause the highest number of accidents and deaths. What is that? That's nothing but atmospheric hazards. Firstly, the gas properties. This is just the basic information for gas hazards and what we should consider. Gas hazards have the property that you had seen to understand or you need to understand, and it is related to density. And what this means is that some compounds can be less dense than air, equal to the air, or more dense than air, and that's based on its molecular weight. And why does that matter? Well, number one, some gas can rise, some gas can drop to the floor. So depending on where that worker is in the space and how much gas is in that area, there could be exposed at different levels based on where they are positioned in that space that you can easily see in the screen. Part of this leads to stratification. Because some gases have higher or a lower dense than air, the gas concentration at different levels within a space. This is called layering or stratification. For example, hydrogen sulfide, we often hear in the oil and gas industry, is heavier than air and can concentrate below the breathing zone or at the bottom of a space. Some gases can also rise or fall based on the temperature. For the reasons mentioned in the previous slide, there is a high importance of clearance measurement. Testing the atmosphere or sampling the contents of confined spaces from outside using the appropriate probe is the best and often required practice. When sampling a confined space, it is necessary to test at different levels so that you can determine if there is a stratified atmosphere containing gas at different levels that workers may be exposed to. Like we have seen in the previous slide, some gases at the top, some gases at the middle, some gases at the bottom within the confined space. If your sampling probe is used, the user should slow progress in testing in order to accommodate the sampling speed and the detector response, because it takes some time for the atmosphere sample to make it from the end of the probe into the detector sampling. So we need to calculate that also into our calculation. So the big topic is here, product solutions at a glance. What we offer the products from MSA side. When we talk about the products, first on the portable gas detectors, thanks to our cost of ownership, what we offer through the Excel sensor technology, which provides the durability, a low gas consumption, and long warranty. Various options, personal detectors with the diffusion type and bumped instruments, and the newest is also area monitor, which you can see in the following slides. We offer multiple gas detectors. Sometimes we call it as a 4-gas detector, dual gas detector, multiple gas detectors with probe, diffusion type, pumped type, different options available from our portfolio. We want to let you know that we have redefined the gas detection through this area monitoring. The new area monitor, Alter IO 360, offers 4-gas continuous detection for high-risk areas in confined spaces. The Alter IO 360 combines the simple setup of smart home device while allowing local or remote monitoring of hazard areas. Yes, smoothly connected work sites, ultra long life battery, performance you can always trust the product from MSA. Connectivity options with Safety IO, a real-time alert management system for remote safety managers, a fleet health management tool for safety maintenance managers, daily fleet status overview tool for service managers, and also we provide Grid Live Monitor enables real-time remote tracking and monitoring of all confined space workers using multi-gas detectors or area monitors. We can also have a specific session on these products in the near term. When we focus on atmospheric hazards, you obviously want to measure them, but there are situations you will need to use the respiratory protection, including SCBAs, which is most commonly told or talked about in the industry as self-contained breathing apparatus sets, or SCABA, or simply breathing apparatus device, or airline systems, also in combination with short duration escape sets or SCBA. Then the goal is to eliminate the hazard if possible, use engineering or administrative controls, if not, and to utilize the PPE in the form of a respiratory protection as a choice of last resort. Unfortunately, for confined space work, often the main available option is protection through a respirator. Certain circumstances will require use of respiratory protection while atmospheric hazards are present. In some circumstances, entry into a confined space will require the continuous wearing of breathing apparatus sets as well. The two most commonly used products are airline respirator and SCBA. Where emergency breathing apparatus is provided to ensure safe escape within the identified areas. Okay. Sometimes there may be a possibility to use air purifying respirator for situations where there is enough oxygen and the lower levels of toxic gas hazards. Obviously, we all know when we use air purifying respirators, we need to ensure that the oxygen concentration is well above 19.5% volume as per OSHA regulations. When we keep talking about the products, what we offer from our respiratory side, the new M1 SCBA is a modular system, which you can see on the right image. It's a breathing apparatus that can be configured from basic to advanced version. It is suitable either for confined space, maintenance, or rescue tasks, including or firefighting applications. Confined space workers can benefit from reduced risk of snagging in a rare area thanks to the guided gauzes in the backplate. It's one of the most lightweight SCBA sets available in the market. It's for 45 minutes duration. The weight is, including the complete set, is 11 kg only. That's M1 modular 1. Increased chemical resistance together with easy cleaning and disassembly make this SCBA ideal choice for emergency response and escape across the industry. And it is used with the G1 mask with its wide distortion-free field of vision. Is not only lightweight and compact with overall low-profile design, it's comfortable and built to last. We also provide C1 communication modules that can be used together with the G1 facepiece, which allows easy to communicate when wearing the breathing apparatus. And we also provide the Premier combination escape sets, which also as a simple escape sets or in combination with an airline system for different applications at the industry. This is a positive pressure, short duration, compressed air, emergency escape breathing device, provides the user with the respiratory protection while escaping from toxic atmospheres. It also provided with the ASV, we call it simply as automatic switchover valve that automatically switches over breathable air supply from compressed air, feeding the line to escape, or compressed air cylinder, vice versa, depending on the pressure differences between the compressed air feeding line and the cylinder. Yes. I do hope I have covered almost all points what I have prepared here for the topic. One and all, rest assured that there will be plenty more opportunities to discuss our products and solutions in the near term. I will move on to session 1, question and answer. And after that, I hand over the microphone to my colleague Adil to begin his session 2. With that note, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful presentation. Now, I request the audience to put your questions on chat box, or you can raise your hand so that I'll unmute you and you can ask your questions. Mr. Muruganandam Musapati, you can unmute and yeah.
Sir, a very nice presentation. Sir, I want to know about how to measure the 30 feet deep excavation site with tube, sir. The probe.
Yeah, okay. That's an excellent question. You know, when you want to monitor at a remote distance of about 30, you're talking about 30 meters, am I right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So there are three factors coming into the picture. One is about what you use from your gas detector instruments, the inner diameter. And then number two, the capacity of the pump, which draw the sample from the 30 meter. Number three, and also the concentration or the intensity of the gas molecules which you want to monitor. You know, these are the three important factors we need to consider. Our gas detectors can provide that solution, Alter 5X instrument. You can get in touch with our colleagues in Kuwait. We can provide that instrument to draw the sample and monitor. Like I mentioned, you know, since you are going to draw the sample from 30 meter, we need to consider other two factors. One, the sampling time, because the gas molecules will have to actually travel for 30 meters to reach our gas detector instruments. Then after that, the very important point we talk about is sampling time or the sensor response time. Sometimes it's 6 seconds, 8 seconds, and then we need to take everything into consideration. Once we turn on the instrument and draw the sample, when we look at the instrument reading, it may show some reading that may not be right. So we need to wait for that actual gas molecules to travel to your gas detector, and then sampling time, then we need to wait for it, you know, approximately, I would say approximate close to 45 to 50 seconds we need to wait for that, provided if you use inner diameter of about 1.2 mm tubing. You can take our contact details, and definitely we would be happy to discuss this particular application in more detail for you. Are you comfortable with that?
Hello. It seems he has lost his connectivity.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry. I think
Thank you. Not a problem, sir. I hope he has the answer right now. There are a few more questions. I will go real quick and we'll see how much time we are getting it. One question was how much minute? Hello?
Sir, excuse me. Can I interrupt?
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
But
Sir, this
keep
is
your question very short. So we were having
sure.
time limitation there. Okay, dear?
Sure. Definitely, no problem. Sir, this is Keyur, and my question is like, I have seen in MSA SCABA that it is like the one which I have, it was saying that it is not complying to NFPA some standard. Like, is it any specific SCABA to use as a for firefighters or rescue team members?
Okay, I'm not sure the model if you're keeping Air Max SCBA or Ergo SCBA. Those are European compliant 137 standard 2,
Okay.
suitable for firefighting applications, and those are only compliant with the European standard. If in case you are using a G1 or our previous version Firehawk, these are compliant with NFPA standard. So I need to understand what's the model you have, then we can really comment on that particular point.
Thank you, sir. I will take few more questions. How much minimum percentage of oxygen required to react one gas monitor? How much minimum percentage of oxygen required to react one gas monitor?
Okay, this is it's I do not know whether I got that question right. For example, when we all say that breathing air or the atmospheric air or a normal dry breathe airing atmosphere contains oxygen 20.9, then nitrogen about 78 point plus 78.8, and then you have other gases like a CO, CO2, argons, helium, neon, different gases available. So for example, if you're going to monitor a specific target gas, it depends on that. For example, say combustible gases, and if you are using LEL monitoring with the catalytic sensor technology, then the oxygen is very important, because the minimum oxygen you need to have is about 12%. So few sensors will go down to 10, but few sensors will work between 12 and 14% of oxygen. So I would say it depends on the target gas which you are going to monitor, and also the sensing technology what you have, and also whether you have the diffusion type. That means where the gas molecules will have to get in touch with your gas detector, or you're going to use a remote pumped version which draw the sample. So these points are need to be taken into consideration before we conclude specifically on the oxygen concentration here. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. There is another question: how to calculate airline pressure?
Airline pressure, I'm not sure. I think they are talking about for an SCBA.
Yes,
if I understand the question correctly.
Yeah.
So what happens, two things. When you say an SCBA, you have a high pressure, which is in your cylinder, breathing air cylinder. And then it reduces from high pressure to the medium pressure, and then from medium pressure to your low pressure for your face piece. So when you say airline pressure, how to calculate, and normally what happens, you need to understand the cylinder capacity. Say for your cylinder capacity is 9 liter, and the pressure, what the pressure rating you have, 200 bar or 300 bar. Say assume you have a 200 bar. So 9 liter into 200 bar divided by 40. 40 is a constant value. That means normally a person, average healthy living person, can consume maximum air per minute. So 9 into 200, 1,800 divided by 40, then you will get approximately about 45. So that's how you consider 45 minutes of breathable air can be made available in your cylinder. So it goes same calculation for a 2 liter, for an escape set 2 liter, 300 bar cylinder. So 2 liter into 300, it's about 600 divided by 40, then 15 minutes, which you use normally for your escape applications. So that's how you calculate your duration. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Radha. There is another question: are the device IoT ready, means Internet over Things ready, or does it have feature to remotely monitor and support? We are talking in the context what the devices you have shown.
Yeah. Yes. Remotely monitoring and tracking. Yes. We have certain specifics which we need to discuss with the customer based on their applications and what's their expectation, what sort of the features they are going to look into that. We have certain the proposals coming like a basic, premium, and what sort of maintenance details they want to understand. So there are a few factors. Probably we can take this topic offline and do. In a short answer, I would say yes, we have a remote monitoring and tracking. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Radha. There was too many questions were there, but because of time constraint, we are freezing the question session here, and we will take few more at the end. Now,
Okay,
this is
sure.
time to invite our second speaker, Mr. Adil Afjal. Mr. Adil Afjal, and he is marketing manager of MSA Falls Protection. He has been part of fall protection industry in Middle East for over half a decade, working closely with contractors, end users, and HSE specialists in various fall protection application and solution. So let us hear from today expert working at height, and it will give you a 360-degree approach to fall protection. Please welcome Mr. Adil Afjal, Marketing Manager from MSA Fall Protection.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you just please quickly confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, dear, we can hear you well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Adil, and I'm delighted to be here this evening with you. So following my colleague Radha's presentation, I would like to follow up with a section that is going to be titled Work at Height, and some of the hidden hazards that you may not have come across yet in the activities associated with work at height and how you can mitigate them. Work at height, as you know, is a common activity in our region, given the rapid expansion and development of facilities and infrastructure. And more importantly, we would like to discuss, as I said before, those hidden hazards that possibly might be overlooked during the risk assessment of these activities. I'd like to share a quick slide on some facts with regards to work at height to just help us really put into perspective why it's necessary to implement a strict hazard mitigation strategy for all activities where risk of a fall exists. So falls are, without any surprise, the #1 cause of workplace death and #2 cause of workplace accidents. Interestingly, the fatality rate worldwide is around 0.46 per 100,000 workers. And from a statistic that was taken from one of the countries in the Gulf region, the death rate is 2.84 per 100,000 workers. This may be, of course, due to harsh climate and the tough work environments, but it also indicates that we all have a lot of work to do in implementing controls to bring down such work at height incidents at our workplaces. And we must also remember that apart from putting lives at risk, falls are also responsible for more than 20% of the total cost of occupational injuries in the form of legal fees and other rehabilitation costs. And of course, at the end of the day, we all want to make sure that we do our level best in ensuring our employees remain engaged, productive, and return to their homes and families safe and sound. So in order to understand this hidden hazards that I'm going to be speaking about, let me give you a short story. Let me tell you about a short story about a day in the life of Ali. So Ali is a construction worker who is part of a team of scaffolders for a large contracting company. The company is working on an expansion project on their client's premises, and it's a national utility company, and this is a client of great importance and reputation. Ali is an experienced scaffolder, and he has nearly 5 years of experience, and he is good at what he does. At work, he wears his usual body harness and lanyard, safety belt, which his supervisor calls, and this is mandatory safety equipment as they are not allowed to work without these work at height PPEs because of strict HSE policies of his companies and the client's requirements. So today, just like any other day, he gets up in the morning and he heads off to work. He's feeling a little tired today and his back is hurting a little. He ignores it and goes to work anyway. It is 38 degrees C outside, hot and humid, nothing unusual, and Ali gets to work. As he is busy erecting the scaffold at nearly 3 meters height, he suddenly feels dizzy and feels the world go upside down around him. When he will wake up next, he will be in a hospital bed in terrible pain. So what happened here? Turns out when Ali felt dizzy and he lost his balance, he fell off the scaffold at 3 meters height and he hit the ground. Even though he was wearing a safety belt, it did not stop him from hitting the ground. As a result, he fractures his wrists and both his kneecaps, which he used to stop his fall. Even though he will not be able to return to work for a long time, he is lucky his fall didn't lead to a permanent paralysis or even a fatality. The biggest question, apart from several others, was why did the safety equipment not stop Ali's fall? The reason, it turns out, was lack of fall clearance. This is one of the hidden hazards that is often overlooked while working at height, and that puts skilled workers like Ali at risk of injury every day. So we will use today's opportunity to speak about fall clearance, discuss how to calculate it, and then discuss how to mitigate this hazard. So what is fall clearance? Now here's a picture of a worker on an elevated platform. There will always be a certain distance between your working platform and the ground or the obstruction below. You have enough fall clearance if, when you fall from the platform, your fall will be arrested before you touch the ground below or the obstruction below. And similarly, you do not have enough fall clearance if, when you fall from the platform, and your PPE or your fall arresters do not stop you from touching the ground below or the obstruction below. So fall clearance basically is the distance that is needed to safely arrest a fall from height. And it must be calculated as part of a risk assessment for work that has potential to expose workers to free fall arrest. So how is fall clearance calculated? Let's first understand the two events that happen when someone falls wearing fall protection PPE. The first thing that will happen is that the worker will free fall under the influence of gravity. Nothing is stopping them at this point since the energy absorber in the safety lanyard has not been activated yet. The second part of the fall will be the deceleration, when the worker will be gradually brought to a stop after the activation of the energy absorber in the lanyard. What does it mean by the activation of the energy absorber? It means that the force of the fall will be used to rip open the webbing inside the energy absorber, which will make the energy absorber open up and elongate. Without this energy absorber, this force of a fall will impact the body and cause severe injury or death. You can think of the example of driving a car. When you need to stop, you need a safe braking distance to bring the car to a stop. If you brake too suddenly, the impact force that will be felt by the passengers will be dangerous. Now, this activation and opening up of the energy absorber creates a problem at low heights because it eats away at the fall clearance required to safely arrest a fall. Simply put, the more you are allowed to fall and the longer your safety lanyard, the higher the fall clearance that will be required. Let's consider this scenario where Ali is using a regular 2-meter-long safety lanyard, which he has connected near his shoulders. He is working at 3 meters height and suddenly he falls. Now, the question is, what would be the fall clearance needed from his connection point and the fall clearance from the working platform? As we discussed on the previous slide, he will free fall, and this is the first part of the fall, he will free fall approximately 1.8 meters under the influence of gravity. Then his energy absorber will get activated and expand to add 1.2 meters length, which is the distance B that you're seeing on the screen. And then we need to keep in mind his height, let's say 1.8 meters or distance C on your screen, plus a safety margin of 1 meter because the harness will expand as well, especially if the harness is loose and not worn properly. This means that from the working platform, Ali will need a safe distance of about 4 meters and from the connection point, a distance of 5.4 meters. This means that for someone like him, who is working at height of 3 meters, there was not enough fall clearance. So the scenario I showed you before, scenario 1, was probably the best case scenario. It is very common in the industry, I'm sure you'll agree, that you are not able to connect at shoulder level or higher, and you need to connect somewhere below, possibly at your foot level. Now, I must warn you that ANSI approved or American approved lanyards, which allow for 6 feet free fall, do not allow connection at the foot level, since the free fall will be more than 6 feet. This is because the more a person can free fall, the more energy and impact that will be felt on their body. The other hazard, of course, is the drastic increase in the fall clearance that will be required in this situation. So let's have a quick look at the numbers. In this scenario, he will free fall nearly 3.6 meters, which is double from scenario 1. Then his energy absorber will get activated and expand to add 1.2 meters length, which is distance B again. And then we need to keep in mind his height, let's say 1.8 meters again, plus a safety margin of 1 meter because the harness will expand as well, especially if the harness is loose and not worn properly. This means now that from the working platform, Ali will need a safe distance of about 5.4 meters. And of course, this means that for someone like him who is working at a height of 3 meters, there was again definitely not enough fall clearance. If you have a similar situation at your workplace, or if you need more understanding on fall clearance, please reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to work with you. So a minimum fall clearance of 4 to 5 meters is typically required when using a 2-meter lanyard connected overhead. Remember, as the best case scenario. And you must also remember that not all lanyards are the same. European approved lanyards have different fall clearance requirements than ANSI approved lanyards. So what can be done to mitigate this problem of low clearance? A really useful innovation in the fall protection industry is in the form of a self-retracting lanyard, or an SRL. A self-retracting lanyard can greatly reduce the fall distance by keeping the minimum distance between the worker and the anchorage point, and by quickly locking the system whenever a fall is happening. So it essentially works like a seatbelt. And what are these self-retracting lifelines or SRLs? So a self-retracting lifeline are fall arresters that have a lanyard inside them, which could be a cable or a webbing which is kept in tension and it's wound around a drum. And it follows the movement of the user, which means that it will only come out as much as the user needs it. And when it's not in use, it will automatically retract back inside the casing. And that webbing is kept, or that cable or the lanyard is kept in tension. Similar to an SRL, a PFL or a personal self-retracting lifeline, which is also called a personal fall limiter, has the same principle as an SRL. That's what you can see on your screen, the smaller version. The only difference is that in this case, the PFL is worn on the back of the user. SRLs and PFLs are regarded as the most effective product in regular lanyards when working at height, since they arrest a fall in the shortest amount of time. Now let's look at the scenario 3, where Ali is using a self-retracting lanyard on the same 3-meter high platform. In this case, when he falls, since the shock absorbing mechanism is internal and mechanical, there is no webbing being stretched or ripped open, which means that the maximum arresting distance is only around 1.37 meters. Even with the addition of a 1 meter safety margin to again allow for harness expansion, we still end up with a fall clearance of 2.4 meters, which is allowable on a 3-meter high platform. So basically now he has enough fall clearance. So now, as Ali returns to his work, he has been provided with MSA's V-Series PFL, which will ensure that he is using the correct work at height PPE for his job, and his story now has a happy ending. Let us now discuss the second most important topic of this presentation, a second hidden hazard, which is the leading edge hazard, and where might one encounter such hazards in our workplaces. This is one of those hazards which we all collectively need to pay close attention to during the risk assessment process in order to ensure that appropriate work at height equipment is provided for the activity. The two important questions that need to be asked with regards to the work at height activity in order to determine whether leading edge hazards could potentially exist are, number one, is there a foot level tie-off? That means, am I connecting near my foot, near my feet? And the second question that we need to ask is there a chance or a potential for the lanyard to come into contact with an exposed edge during a fall? If you have answered yes to one or both of these questions, you most likely have leading edge hazards. When there is a foot level tie-off, when you're connecting near your feet or at your feet, there's a very strong possibility that the fall will be over an edge. However, even in overhead anchorage situations, when the SRL or the self-retracting lifeline is not directly overhead, such as in the diagram that you can see on the far right, the lanyard will come into contact with an edge during a fall, and hence leading edge hazards are still present. So to sum up, leading edge is an application where in the event of a fall, the lifeline of the lanyard may come in contact with an exposed edge. And leading edge applications can also occur when the harness wearer is anchored at the foot level or below the back D-ring. And once again, if either one or both of these situations are present, then you most likely have a leading edge. So the question that you might be asking is, why does the leading edge hazard pose a threat? Why is it a problem during the work at height activity? This is because edges compromise the integrity of the lifeline by impact, abrasion, and cutting. When we consider the amount of impact forces that are generated when someone falls, if the lanyard comes into contact with an exposed edge, the force localization at that particular point of contact may cut the lanyard of the worker, defeating the whole point of having a fall arrest equipment, and the worker will continue to fall. This would be made worse in a situation where there is potential for swing fall, as seen here in the diagram below, where the lanyard will swing like a pendulum and rub against the edge, with the edge effectively acting as a knife. Further to the point I made earlier about foot level anchorage, making a fall over an edge more likely, it is also important to note that a foot level tie-off also means that the distance the worker falls and the energy and the impact force that will be experienced in the system will be much higher as well. We also came across this while we were speaking about fall clearances in the earlier part of my presentation. So global approvals, such as the European and the American, require additional testing to the relevant standards for leading edge. Here we can see three different tests that are performed as part of the leading edge standard: the dynamic performance, dynamic strength, and static strength. In the dynamic tests, the weight is dropped over a sharp metal edge, perpendicular and at an angle to simulate swing fall, and the webbing must not be cut during the test, with the fall being safely arrested. So two conditions need to be met: that the impact forces should have been successfully reduced, and second, the webbing should have survived the sharp edge as well. Under European standard EN 360, any PFL or SRL which is approved to 140 kilogram user weight, fall factor 2, which is foot level tie-off, and leading edge must be certified to CNB/P/11.060, CNB/P/11.062, and CNB/P/11.085. This is in addition to the standard, which is the regular standard, which is the EN 360. So unless you do not see these three additional standards mentioned on your device, it is not approved for leading edge use under the European standards. Similarly, under the American leading edge tests, the three tests, as I meant, the three tests that I described before are similar under the American testing as well, which is the dynamic performance, the dynamic strength, and the static strength tests. And again, in order for the product to pass the test, it should first of all safely arrest the fall, reduce the impact forces that will be felt on the test weight. And secondly, it should not, the webbing or the lanyard or the cable should not fail. It should not be cut during the test as well. So it should successfully meet these two criteria in order to be certified under this standard. And if the fall arrest equipment has been successfully tested and certified for leading edge use, then it must be labeled with an LE as per the ANSI standards. So in addition to the ANSI Z359.14, if you're following the American standards, if you need your equipment to be certified for leading edge use, it should have the marking LE on it as well. Now, which markets have potential for leading edge? And the short answer is all markets have potential for leading edge interactions. All industries have this potential hazard. However, what we've observed so far in our interaction with the end users is that exposed edges are most common in construction, oil and gas, and general industry. And some of the key work applications that potentially could involve leading edges include roof decking, steel erection, concrete decking, scaffolding, and precast assembly. This is, of course, a non-exhaustive list, and it is your risk assessment of the job activity that will eventually determine whether you have a leading edge hazard. Now, I believe it makes sense to wrap up the presentation where we discuss the problem of low fall clearances and how to calculate them, and leading edge hazards and how to identify them, by discussing the state-of-the-art solutions that MSA Safety has developed and offers to its clients to mitigate these hazards. Let me speak a little about MSA's innovative line of retractable fall arresters, which work to minimize the potential free fall distances in comparison to a regular energy-absorbing lanyard. The VTech SRL has a high-impact clear polycarbonate housing, which greatly simplifies pre-use inspection. It also features a retraction dampening technology, which controls the cable speed to less than 3 meters per second if it is released, which means that if you're using a 15-meter long lanyard and if you have to release it, it will not shoot back up with high speed, which can potentially damage the body of the SRL. It will go back up, it will recoil at a controlled speed, which is less than 3 meters per second, so that it does not damage the body of the SRL, which greatly reduces your cost of ownership. The SRL features world's first spring radial energy absorbing technology, which means that the SRL requires zero calibration or adjustment throughout its life. And it's available in a choice of galvanized steel cable or stainless steel cable. And of course, it meets the global approvals, including the ANSI Z359.14 and the EN360. Similar to the VTech SRL, the VTech PFL, which, as I mentioned before, is a smaller version of an SRL. The only difference is that the user wears it on their back, which allows for mobility. The user can move around easily. So similar to the VTech SRL, the VTech PFL also works to minimize the potential free fall distances in comparison to an energy absorbing lanyard. And as mentioned before, the main difference is that the PFL is worn directly on the user's back. So it helps the user move around, providing an increased access, for example, to a typical scaffold bay. The lightweight scaffold hooks option allow flexible anchorage when erecting traditional tube and fitting scaffolding and system scaffolding. And the twin legs of the PFL that you can see on the right side, they ensure that the user is continuously connected when scaffold hook meets a transform on a ledger. So what this means is that the two legs of the PFL, when the person has to move, rather than disconnecting both the legs completely, the user can safely connect the second leg of the PFL to bypass onto the next ledger and then keep moving, which is known as 100% tie-off, as I'm sure you know in the industry. And the retracting PFL ensures that the user's lanyard remains at short length, for example, while lifting boards and tubes into position, which avoids risk of snagging and tripping as well. And it comes in a choice of webbing or cable, and it is available with a variety of hooks. Similarly, the clear and tough polycarbonate case allows for quick and easy inspection of the mechanism and locking device at any time. And it also features the world's first self-retracting lifeline with multiple spring radial energy absorbing technology, which means it requires zero calibration or adjustment throughout its life. When it comes to protection against leading edge hazards, MSA's line of fall arresters not just work to minimize fall clearances, they are also tested as per the global approvals in situations where exposure to an edge during a fall exists. Similar to the VTech SRL, the V-Edge SRL features a high-impact clear polycarbonate housing that simplifies pre-use inspection, and it also has the retraction dampening feature, which controls the cable recoil speed to less than 3 meters per second. Additionally, it features an external shock absorber for foot-level connections and a roll cage feature around the chassis that prevents damage to the body from ground contact. In terms of MSA's offerings in personal fall limiters, there is an option of 2.4 meter and 1.8 meter PFLs, or personal fall limiters. The V-Edge 2.4 meter PFL, which you can see on your screen, is available in cable and web options. And of course, because it's approved for leading edge, it is designed for use in places where exposed edges or sharp edge hazards exist. It features an external shock absorber for foot level connections, and it is available in a choice of single or twin leg configuration. In terms of offerings of the hooks, there is a choice of large aluminum or steel snap hook or small steel snap hook. And of course, it meets all the relevant global approvals. The V-Edge 1.8 meter PFL, which you can see on your screen, is a really nice lightweight option which is designed for leading edge applications with exposed edges, and the big advantage is that it's super versatile as well. Great. So thank you everyone for your participation today in our webinar. And should you have any follow-up questions, or if you'd like to request more information, or you'd like us to discuss in greater detail about the products and services we spoke about today, please feel free to get in touch with us on the email address that is shown on your screen. You have several options available when it comes to working with MSA Safety. You can request a meeting or a virtual conference call to discuss and identify various work applications, request trial for products and services we discussed in today's webinar, or partner with us to discuss your training needs. So please, you have various options to get in touch with us. You can get in touch with us through ASSP, through our partners in Kuwait, Mahata, or through us directly if you have any technical queries that need resolution. Because I understand it's a lot of information and we're short on time as well. So with that, I would now like to end my part of the presentation and open the floor for questions, and I'll hand over the microphone to our hosts today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adil Afjal. We will take few questions at the end of the quiz we are going to post right now. So all participants are encouraged to post their question on chat box. Meanwhile, we are launching a quiz, online quiz, which is all are encouraged to participate. Mashallah, it was a very excellent presentation from MSA, and you kept audience very alive. I can see the audience is still very eager to hear from you, and there are a lot of, I appreciate if you can post your local contact here in Kuwait. So it will be easy for us to reach. There may be some specific customized solution and question from audience.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, okay.
For the online quiz, I have posted the link in the chat box. It will be the Google form. You can access that one, and once you answer the questions, it will take you to feedback session. Once you submit the feedback, you will get your participation certificate automatically. There won't be any manual in that. The system will generate the certificate automatically. Hence, I request everyone to put your name properly and the email address. Okay. After 3 minutes, the question and answer session will be on. So keep your online quiz active now for 3 minutes. Just read the question and answers, and it will be asked again in the Q&A session. It's only for 3 minutes. The chat is open now. If you have any questions, you can put in chat box even.
One of few people could not see the link. Could you please repost it?
Sure, Majaji. Yeah, I have posted again.
Yes, Murugananthamji, I have seen your raised hand. Once this quiz portion will be completed, we will come back to you.
Okay, Majaji. You can take the questions now.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Mr. Adil Afzal, for your excellent presentation, showing us this fall clearance and landing edge and all this stuff. It's very useful things to know, and especially a picture which is showing that anchorage at different location will give us a different result while someone, especially Mr. Ali, your virtual person, will fall. So let us go for few questions. Now questions are open for both work at height as well as confined space. And my request is, when you ask a question, those who have raised their hands, we will go with them first. They can ask their question directly. Please tell us your name, and second thing is your question is regarding confined space or work at height. So the particular person will be there to answer your question. Once we will finish with this raised hand, we will go to the chat box. So let us go with the first person, Mr. Muruganantham. You can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Okay. Let me unmute them.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, Murugan, you can unmute now.
Yeah, very interesting presentation. Both advanced information was available. Same time, my questions now for the work at height. Yeah, we have the challenges in the construction sites. As a contractor worker, can it take the anchorage point of the equipment eye bolt?
Sorry, there's a lot of noise.
Yeah, muted, sorry.
Sorry, could you please repeat your question, sir?
In the construction site, a contractor worker can it take the anchorage point as the equipment eye bolt? You know, normally to lift any equipment, there is a lifting eye bolt available, sir. Can I use such an anchorage point for any followers for SRL or full body harness?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we get that a lot in our site visits. The reason why I cannot give you a yes or no answer right now is because it would be too simplistic, and I do not have enough information to give you a yes or a no. What I can tell you is that the anchor point has to be approved to a certain strength, which is around 22 kilonewtons, for it to be able to certify it as an anchor point. So if you've tested that anchor point through a structural engineer, then you can obviously it can be certified to be used as an anchor point. But again, there are so many other things that you need to consider. When you connect, are you going to be connecting on a foot level? Are you going to have enough fall clearance that if in case somebody falls, they might hit the ground, or are there any obstructions nearby? There was a very recent plant that I visited, where there was a similar situation. They were working on top of a chiller, and they had an eyeball that they wanted to connect to. But we did not allow that because there was not enough fall clearance. And if they had fallen, they would have hit an obstruction. Even though that bolt would have been strong enough in the end to, take the force of the fall, but we could not allow that. So what we sort of recommended was an overhead lifeline system, which would do a couple of things. First of all, it would make sure that the anchor point remains overhead. And if somebody falls, then the fall clearance will be reduced as well. Now, I do not know what your place looks like. Maybe you do, because you're in construction, maybe a permanent lifeline does not make sense. So you could use a temporary lifeline system in that case as well. But I would really need to either look at the picture of your facility. If you can share that picture with the contact details that have been shared with you, then we can guide you on a more in-depth level on what sort of advice you can take in that sense. Do you have our contact details? Do you know how to reach out to us?
Yes. Through ASSP, I will get it.
Okay, is that okay for you, Mr. Mazhar, to share the details?
Yeah, now it is okay.
No issues, no
Ramana,
issues.
I have another question if you have time later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Amar, we'll come back to you. Mr. Sarfaraz Ahmad, you can unmute yourself and ask the question, please. Ramana, please unmute him.
He can unmute himself, actually.
Mr. Sarfaraz, kindly unmute. No problem. We'll come back to him again. Mr. Niaz Akhtar, please ask your question. Ramana, please unmute him. Mr. Niaz Akhtar.
I'm trying to unmute, but yes.
Mr. Niaz Akhtar, you need to unmute yourself. Mr. Sarfaraz, are you there? Okay, no problem. We'll go to Mr. Mohammed Iqbal. Please ask your question. Mr. Mohammed Iqbal.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum. So my question is in the context of self-retracting lanyard, what is the biggest risk? Or let me make it a little easier for Afzal if it is, what is the pendulum fall? Because that's one of the biggest risks in that. I mean, if the lanyard keeps stretching and stretching and stretching, and when you fall off the edge, I mean, you're going to have a huge impact on your body. So what is the, how can you shed some light on it? Thank you.
So if I understood you correctly, you're asking what is the swing fall, right? What is the pendulum fall, and how can we avoid it?
Yes, that's what I'm asking. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I am unmuted.
So what happens is when you connect to an anchor point, let's say you're working on top of a platform and you've connected directly overhead. Your SR is connected directly overhead, right? Now, what's going to happen is if you work directly under it, and if you slip off the platform, you will be directly your fall will be in the same plane, and the force of the impact will also be vertical. So you will not be, you will stay in that particular direction, which is directly under the anchor point. Now, what's going to happen if you imagine the same situation where you're working on the platform, you are connected directly overhead, but now suddenly you have to move to the right side to pick up something or, work on something. But now your position where you're working is at an angle to your anchor point. Now, if you fall in this situation, because the energy in the system is now not directly vertical, it's at an angle. So when you fall, the energy, when it's going to be given out, when it's going to be dissipated, it is going to be dissipated in the form of a swing. Because now that increased energy has to be let out somehow. Now, because your vertical direction is limited, so the only way that excess energy can be given out is through horizontal movements, which is why it will result in a swing or a pendulum, which is what's recommended highly to avoid, because you might hit obstructions on the side and you might get injured in that sense. So it's recommended to always stay either directly connected underneath your anchor point, or the minimum recommended angle is around 30 degrees. Beyond that, it's not recommended to move. And obviously this is all stated in the user instructions to make sure that you stay within the recommended cone of use as well. So that's why it's very important to avoid swing fall. And that's why, especially if you have to connect at foot level, and if you fall now at an angle, this is an even greater risk, because if you fall over an edge, now you're swinging around an edge. So that edge is now acting like a knife where it can cut your lanyard even more if you're at an angle. So it's always recommended to stay in direct line of the anchor point.
Thank you, Mr. Adil. We have 2-3 more questions, and then we will go to Mr. Radhakrishnan. I hope you are still with us, Mr. Radhakrishnan. My next question for Mr. Adil is from Mr. Vasudev Menon. In all PFA, how could you manage suspension trauma?
Yeah, that's an excellent question and a very important part of work at height that can actually take a whole different session. So there are two, just for everyone's sake, what is suspension trauma? So there are two challenges to a fall. One is that when somebody falls, you need to take away that impact force. So that's why you have an energy absorbing mechanism in the system, which reduces the impact force of a fall from 5,000 pounds to less than 900 pounds. So that's the great advantage of the energy absorber. However, now the second challenge of the fall is that you need to take that person out of that suspension. So if somebody has fallen, they're now hanging in that harness. And that harness, if you can visualize the full body harness, it's made of straps, right? So that those straps, specifically the leg straps, are cutting into the body of the person because they're hanging. Their weight is pushing down on the webbing. So because those straps are cutting into your legs, they're cutting into your blood supply. So eventually, if you've ever been suspended in a harness, I could not do it for more than a couple of seconds. It was so uncomfortable. So if you are suspended in a harness for more than a couple of minutes, eventually it'll get so uncomfortable that the blood supply to the brain would be cut off. And eventually, if you leave that person hanging like that for more than, 10 minutes or even 5 minutes, depends on the situation. If the person has pre-existing medical conditions, that person can actually die because of this. So in order to avoid this, we provide harnesses with trauma straps. So what happens is the trauma straps are connected on your harness. If somebody falls, they just release those straps and then they sort of put their feet on those straps and lift themselves up. So it temporarily removes the tension from the straps, from the web of the harness that's cutting into the legs. So it somehow gives relief to the blood circulation, which prevents the brain from being starved of oxygen and nutrients. Again, this is a temporary protection. What that does is it probably gives the rescue teams an additional window of opportunity to carry out the rescue, because eventually what will save that person is a proper rescue plan. And this is what Radha also mentioned, that any activity, if it's confined space or work at height, needs to have a documented rescue plan in order to deal with such eventualities. And even after that, if you're able to bring someone down who's been in suspension, you do not immediately remove the harness and you lift them up. You wait for the rescue team, train people to deal with this person, because these are also documented cases that when someone was rescued from suspension, they removed their harness, they made them sit up, and suddenly they died because of toxic shock. Because what happens is, if somebody has been hanging for too long, all the blood has been sort of stationary in one part of the body, which is legs, and it's not being cleaned regularly. So suddenly when you release that blood circulation, all the toxins, they move into your organs and the organs go into a shock. So you need to rescue the person as soon as possible, which can only happen if you have a proper rescue plan. And then you need to make sure that proper trained rescuers are carrying out this activity. Not everyone should get involved in this.
Thanks for detailed explanation on that. Mr. Tapanji, next question is yours. But good part is we have quiz winners here with us. So let us officially finish this part, and then I hope our speaker don't mind to be with us for more 10 or 15 minutes, because we have few questions, not too much. Not too many, 2 to 3 questions for confined space and 2 to 3 for work at height. So let us move ahead. Really, on behalf of ASSP, we are very thankful to MSA that they agreed to our request, and they came forward to show us this useful information. And special thanks to both of the speakers, Mr. Radhakrishnan and Mr. Adil Afzal. You spared your valuable time at that too after office hours. Yeah, I know it's quite not easy every time. So thank you so much for this. But you can see there are almost 140 to 150 people who have taken this benefit. So you can say you reach to this many organizations or teams who got this information, and inshallah they will implement this to their site wherever they are working, and this will indirectly save life of the people. So thank you so much. Let me start with the felicitation of Mr. Radhakrishnan. Thank you so much, Mr. Radhakrishnan. It was wonderful and knowledge sharing session from your side, and brushed up our minds also in few stuffs. Yani, we are not day to day, we are not discussing on this stuff. So, but yes, very good information from your side, and I have personally found few of your things, your equipments are really useful, and especially the way you explained how for 30 feet to 30-meter distance, what things to be considered. Yani, we cannot just go with the normal monitor and we expect that the pump of that monitor will suck the air from 30-meter long distance. So this is a very good thing. Thank you so much for this, Mr. Radhakrishnan. And the next is thank you, Mr. Adil Afzal. Thank you so much for your presentation. Yes, of course, it was wonderful. Mr. Adil Afzal, we are really glad to have both of you here with us. And Mr. Radhakrishnan, would you like to say a few words? You need to unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, ASP. Personally, I'm overwhelmed with your arrangement. It's one of the most professionally organized, well-structured event, I would say. Really glad to be part of this event today. And thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you again. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. So nice of you. Thank you, Mr. Radhakrishnan.
Thank you for great questions. Thank you for wonderful engagement. You know, really pleased with that. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Radhakrishnan, just we have two more questions. If you don't mind, we will just after 5 minutes we will get those questions. If you don't mind.
Sure. Sure.
Okay. Mr. Adil Afzal, if you want to say a few words on this.
Yes, no, thank you so much for letting us be part of this. I think it was really a great response, seeing so many registrants, and we're really happy that we could share this knowledge with so many participants, and as Radha said, very professionally organized. We were very impressed, and we look forward to working with you again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Adil Afzal. Before the quiz winners, I can see some questions in chat regarding the certificates. See, we have the system. Once you register and your name is in our system, and when you go for the quiz, the certificate is, and you submit the quiz, the certificate is generated automatically, and you will receive it after this session on your mail ID by which you have registered to this session. So don't worry about this. This all full auto system. So, and now Ramanna, please go to the quiz winners. Ramanna.
Yeah, the certificate should reach them automatically, Mazaji. There is no.
Yes. That is what I am saying. Go to quiz. Go to quiz.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for everyone for participating. The first winner is Mr. Anirban Mishra. So congratulations for answering the quiz question on this topic of confined space entry application. And the next is Mr. Junaid Ahmad Sayed. So congratulations, Mr. Junaid. Thank you so much for participating and giving the most correct and fastest answers. And we have Mr. Sunil Kumar with us. Thank you so much and congratulations, Mr. Sunil Kumar, for your input. And this is what the result is. You are also one of the winner. Oh, as expected, Mr. Muruganantham, my friend. Congratulations, Mr. Muruganantham. And thank you for attending and participating and your quizzes. Mr. Anu Gopinath Nair, thank you for participating and congratulations. So we have all 5 winners with us. So thanks once again. Thanks everyone for joining us today. I know like Monday in India and other part of the world, Sunday is the toughest part for us because it's the first day of job here, and that too in the evening. Speakers has allotted their timing and all of you have spared your time to join this event. So thank you so much. And now again, we can go to those questions. The meeting or technical meet is officially ended now. We are very much thankful once again for all of you to joining us. Now we have few questions left. Those are 3 or 4 questions. So we will go through those questions. You can put your comments on the chat box and your questions. So I am asking those questions from the chat box. So first we will go with okay. Mr. Adil, let me finish with the question for working at height. Are you with us, Mr. Adil?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, there is one question from Mohammad Zaki Ahmad. Is there any lifespan of safety harnesses if used or not used?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have 2 types of main global approvals. The European approval for harnesses, where we say that, so we have a 10-year lifespan from date of service. So for example, that doesn't include shelf life. So you can store it, but once you start to use it, then we recommend a 10-year service time. So basically your 10 years recommended lifetime starts from when you start wearing the harness. That's what we recommend. But again, it all depends on what we recommend the end user inspection. So there's a certain checklist that you need to follow for the end user who's wearing the harness, where you need to, a couple of small steps that you need to carry out to inspect to make sure that the harness is in good condition. If it passes it, you can continue using it. But obviously 10 years is a long time. We recommend that once the 10 years has elapsed, that you replace your harness. For the American approved harnesses, we do not recommend a timeline. We just say that as long as it keeps passing the inspection, as long as you do the end user inspection, you can keep using it. There's also another type of third-party inspection that minimum you need to do once a year, and your equipment should pass that inspection in order for it to be continuously used. So yeah, in the end, it all depends down on your end user inspections and third-party inspections.
Thank you, Mr. Adil. Mr. Tapanjit has a question for you, Mr. Adil. What is the best PFL for overhead transmission line?
Okay, that's a great question. So this is the one that I showed you on the screen. It's called the VTech PFL. The spelling is V-TEC, so VTech PFL. You just have to search on Google VTech PFL and you'll get all the information that you need. We recommend this. I think there are some good applications of this in Europe as well, that they were using this for climbing transmission lines. But in the end, if you need more information, again, or you need an in-depth sort of understanding, please reach out to me, and we can speak, have a one-on-one on this.
So, Mr. Tabanjit, the answer for your question is there, but for more details, you can contact Mr. Adil personally. So he will help out to you with the kind of job you are doing, because few more details are also required. Next question is, what is the important risk of SRL? From Muhammad Iqbal.
Okay, so the important risk of SRL. So the way I'm understanding this question is that why do you need to use an SRL? Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I will answer it. But if it's
Sorry. You were muted, Mr. Adil. Sorry for that.
oh, sorry, did I mute myself?
No, it's my mistake probably. Somebody was
No.
making noise.
Sorry, no problem. So I was saying that I'll answer it the way I think I understood your question. If not, please let me know. So the way I understood your question is that why do you use an SRL? And that's because compared to a regular energy absorber, because it's like an inertia read, which means that it will only come out as much as the user needs, and it will lock as soon as the fall happens. So there's no expansion or elongation of energy absorber. There's no loose webbing. So it will stop the fall in the shortest amount of time. So it will do two things. It will reduce the impact force that goes on the body, which is always good. And it will also reduce the fall clearance that will be required. So there is a very relatively less risk of you hitting the ground or any obstructions, because you will be brought to a stop quickly. You just need to make sure that if you have sharp edges or exposed edges, you use a leading edge approved SRL or a PFL, like I mentioned before. I hope that was okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Adil. Meantime, I just request everyone to open your cameras to take some snaps. Whoever is having cameras, please open. I need to capture some screenshots.
Oh, there you go. Oh.
Mr. Adil, there is one question from our friend in Nigeria. The question is, what height is considered as working at height?
Yeah, another great question. So normally, if you're following OSHA or the American standards, they say that at 6 feet in general industry, you are supposed to have work at height. Applications in construction, they say 4 feet. For scaffolders, they say 10 feet. So first of all, it varies in industry-wise. But the answer that I like to give is that it all depends on your risk assessment. So if I tell you that, don't use work at height protection under 6 feet, but you and I know that there are situations where you might have to work at heights lower than 6 feet. So we cannot say that, don't use work at height protection at heights less than 6 feet. So the answer is that it all depends on what kind of activity is happening. What is your risk assessment saying? And what would be the best type of mitigation strategy? Because in lower heights, sometimes restraint works better than fall arrest, which means that you stop the people from falling. So a restraint lanyard is like a fixed length rope or a cable or a webbing lanyard, which stops you from going over the edge. So then you have to think of these kind of situations where, like guardrail or collective fall arrest would be a better solution. So again, it depends on your workplace, what standards you're following, what is your risk assessment. But normally OSHA says that 6 feet in general industry.
Thank you, Mr. Adil. Now we have a question for Mr. Radhakrishnan. Mr. Radhakrishnan, are you with us? kindly unmute yourself.
Yes, I'm with you all. Yep.
Thank you. Thanks for being there. What's your recommendation for frequency of calibration for monitors from Mr. Mohammad Zaki? I am repeating, what's your recommendation for frequency of calibration for monitors?
Okay. It's mandatory to calibrate once in 6 months. However, it's recommended to do the calibration periodically, say in 3 months interval. So that's how we recommend, yeah.
Okay.
We recommend
And
3, but mandatory 6 months, yeah.
so 3 is recommended by the experts and the mandatory is 6 months. Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Another one is in confined space, O2 enrichment effect. Yani how O2 enrichment in confined space will affect from Mr. Amudan.
Okay, so that's a great question actually. What happens in the confined space once O2 increases beyond 23.5, then it becomes oxygen enriched atmosphere. So when it is an enriched atmosphere, it is dangerous because the atmospheric oxygen content rises beyond normal levels. When we say normal level should be about 23.5. So the ignition temperature need to ignite something goes down to a lower level. So technically what happens when the oxygen enrichment happens, then it helps or it aids for explosion. So that's why we need to be careful of monitoring this enriched atmosphere.
Correct. This one more question from the same person, Mr. Amudan. Is there any time interval for gas taste in confined space?
Time interval for gas testing is talking about, okay. I would call this as a sampling time. You know, always when it comes to confined space, prior to entry, you need to take care of the measurements. Like we talked about stratified or stratification of gas properties. So the gas molecules will stay at 3 different levels. So we need to do the sampling or gas testing, one at the bottom, one at the middle, one at the top. So to ensure that we are monitoring all gases inside the confined spaces. Yeah.
So that is initial one. And what frequency, his question is, what frequency after this initial testing, the another test shall be done? Is it enough when we do an initial or we need to do it more?
No, obviously we need to do it more, but what happens prior to entry, one has to carry out this testing. Then after that, the persons working inside will always carry the gas testers. Once the job is completed, then it's better to again monitor and record because we cannot really assume or imagine how the gas molecules or the atmosphere inside the confined space would have behaved over a period of working duration. Yeah.
Thanks. One question from Mr. Narala. How much depth can multi-gas detector detect? Means how, you can say how long this we can go with this.
Okay, in terms of gas detectors, what happens? All portable gas detectors are considered to be diffusion type. That means diffusion. The gas molecules will have to come and get in contact with the sensor. That means it's like a nose, you know, unless the molecules reaches its sensors, so we cannot really have the reading on the display of the instruments. So when we talk about length or area or depth, unless you're monitoring through remote sampling using a probe and pump, then you can say specifically maximum distance. Say some instruments will go for up to 15 meters, some will go for 30 meters. Like I said, the length can be extended provided you reduce the inner diameter of the tubing. That's one. When we talk about the length, we can also talk about the coverage. Nobody can really exactly predict that my gas detector will cover, say, 30 meter of gas leak or 20 meters circumference of gas leak, because what happens, it depends on the gas density, whether it is lighter than or heavier than air. That's number one. Number two, the how close to the leak source of the gas. So that is number two. Number three, the intensity or the gas concentration. Very important. Number four, the direction, wind direction. Suppose the wind is blowing from south to north, and where the person is standing on the west side, then the gas molecules will not get in contact with the sensors. So obviously we cannot really define that. So we need to take into these aspects like gas density, wind direction, how close to the leak source, and obviously the gas concentration. Yeah.
Okay. So the answer is satisfying. You need to follow the manufacturer's recommendation, and in case you have some specifically any special case where you are confused, and then we have our mentors here in MSA, Mr. Radhakrishnan. You can just contact him and you can discuss your scenario with him, and you can get good information, I'm sure.
Sure.
The last question here before Mr. Muruganantham asks his question is the minimum oxygen percentage required to work your MI monitor. Shall I repeat?
Yeah, yes, please.
What is the minimum O2 percentage, oxygen percentage required for your MI monitor to work?
If I can get some clarification of what does he mean on MI monitor, I'm not sure about that.
Mr. Joby Thomas, are you with us? You can unmute yourself. Maybe the same question which you already attended after your presentation.
Okay, right.
Mr. Muruganantham, are you still with us? I
Yes.
think you have one more question.
Yeah, yes, please.
Yeah, you can ask your question.
Yeah, regarding the workout height. My question is regarding the workout height. What is the shelf life for the SRL, sir?
Sorry, what is the what for SRL?
Self-retracting device. Like self-retracting devices. What is the shelf life, sir?
Okay. Yeah, so again, we do not recommend any life for this. What you will need to do is you will need to do an inspection, pre-use inspection before you get into, before you put this SRL into use. The inspections are in the user instructions. They're very simple, couple of steps you need to do, like inspect the cable or the webbing. It should not be damaged. You know, the webbing should not be cut. The cable should not be corroded. It should lock properly, which means that when you pull out the cable, it should go back in normally. But if you pull on it with a sharp tug, it should lock, right? So these are a couple of tests you need to do. The body of the SRL, the chassis should not be cracked. You know, it should not be damaged. The hooks should not be rusted. The hooks should self-close. They should not remain open. So if they're passing these couple of quick inspections, plus the third-party inspection, minimum once a year, then you can continue using them, not an issue. And the great part of our MSA SRLs is that they, apart from the good quality, of course, because it doesn't require any calibration or any surfacing in over the lifetime of the SRL, it has a long lifetime as well for use.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Problem.
So with this, we have ended our questions. If anyone has any questions, we can take one or two more questions. You can raise your hand. And I think there is no. So thank you so much once again, Mr. Radhakrishnan, Mr. Adil Afzal, for your time on the working day evenings. You spared your valuable time with us and you gave such an information. We are very thankful, ASSP, on behalf of ASSP Chairman and Executive Committee. I'm really very thankful for both of you for this wonderful evening you spared your time for. And I also would like to thank all those participants who stayed with us and made this evening successful. Thank you so much. For any questions, you can go to the chat box. There is a number given for the MSA representative, and you all have the chapter number with you, ASSP chapter number with you. So if you have any question, you can ask it to the ASSP chapter number, and they will divert you to the correct person. And so with this, all of you, good night and sabah khair and ma salama. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.